Hi, I'm Anna Borella, so I'm one of our Detective Chief Inspectors within our Public Protection Command, and I'm going to be talking today with a couple of colleagues about violence against women and girls and football. So first of all, I'd like to introduce the colleagues I have with me.
Hi, I'm Mike Birch. I am the Detective Chief Inspector for Domestic Abuse, Head of DAISU.
Hi, I'm Karl Diggins. I am the Community Safety Unit Sergeant in Watford. My area of business is licensing, hate crime and antisocial behaviour, and I'm also the operational lead for Hertfordshire for Project Vigilant, which we'll come on to talk about later.
Perfect. So first of all then, let's start to talk about why do we see this increase? What do we know happens during football tournaments that causes this increase in violence against women and girls that we see nationally in terms of an increase of reports?
So I think it goes hand in hand that during times of football tournaments, especially like the World Cup, it is associated with people consuming more alcohol, maybe even taking more drugs. That all comes as part of that period over the football tournament. Mm-hmm. Both of those factors are aggravating around domestic abuse and violence against women and girls. There is a correlation between the two. There is a link that drinking and drugs do cause more domestic abuse during that time. It becomes more intense during a football tournament just because it's an intensive period of what's going on at the time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And obviously we talk about violence, but there are other things that we see during that period. So predatory behaviour, misogynistic behaviour. So in terms of some of the work we do in Hertfordshire to address and prevent some of that behaviour, Karl, can you just tell us about some of the things that have been going on in the past and what we plan to do coming up?
So what we're doing in Hertfordshire and also nationally is Project Vigilant. Mm-hmm. Project Vigilant is the police response to tackling sexual predatory behaviour in the nighttime economy. It's something that started in Thames Valley Police in 2019. So we invited Thames Valley into Hertfordshire. We received all the training from them. Myself and quite a few colleagues now train our officers in Project Vigilant. And what we're training them to look for is behaviours, sexual predatory behaviour from men towards women. And how it works is those officers will go out in plain clothes, always in pairs. And then if there's some behaviours that they see that they're not happy with, such as aggressive behaviour, if they hear misogynistic comments, stalking behaviour, loitering, they will call in their dedicated uniformed colleagues who are waiting nearby to come in and carry out a simple stop check of those individuals. It might be that no crime has been committed at that point, but research from the National Crime Agency has shown that even that interaction with a police officer can divert their behaviour, certainly for that night, but more often long term. And we also then take the full details of the person we've stopped, we carry out all the checks possible, and then we have a risk assessment meeting where we will manage that person just to make sure that things like that don't happen again. In Hertfordshire, we've done 43 deployments, Project Vigilant. We've stopped 50 men who are displaying sexual predatory behaviour in the nighttime economy. And we've now trained 216 officers. Okay. But it's something that's really good for their general policing careers. They will go out on their normal duties when, let's say, there's not a Project Vigilant deployment officially operating, and they'll be looking for this now. It's at the forefront of their mind, which is great, which is what we want of all our officers. And the plan is to roll that out to all our officers in Hertfordshire so that they are all trained in looking for these behaviours and have the confidence to go and stop these people who are literally just displaying these behaviours, who might not have committed a criminal offence. I think historically in policing in the nighttime economy, we've been looking or waiting for fights to kick off where people have had too much to drink, and then the police will go in and stop that and deal with it. But we really want them to focus on this sexual predatory behaviour, which is what we're rolling out really well in Hertfordshire.
Okay, it's really, really interesting. So in terms of how that looks during the World Cup this year, does anything change? Do you increase the level of vigilant patrols you're doing, or it's business as usual for us as a county?
It's become business as usual now. Okay. Yes, there'll be reminders. I'll be certainly in my area, and I know my colleagues in the community safety unit will be doing the same in their areas, especially where we've got the busier nighttime economies, like Watford, St Albans, Hertford, Stevenage. But as I said, we've got a lot of officers now trained in looking for these behaviours, and they know exactly what to do when they see it.
Yeah.
So it has become, like you say, business as usual, which is the point we wanted to get to. These things do take a little while.
Yeah.
We launched this in Herts as a pilot in Watford in 2023. So we've only been going a couple of years with this, and these things, as you can understand, take some time to get off the ground. But all the officers that do it really, really see the benefit in it, and it's something that they're all really passionate about.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, thank you. So that's a flavour of some of the really important preventative work that's going on. Mike, can you tell us a bit more about the pursue element of our work in terms of reducing violence against women and girls?
Of course, and I'll just hang off of some of the things that Karl just said there. I mean, what that Vigilant is doing is really kind of embedding that professional curiosity that's specific around these types of offences, these predatory behaviours, and I think that's really good. And I don't think you can really measure how the impact of the prevent work and what we're actually preventing by doing that. And I think that's almost immeasurable, but some really good work. But in terms of pursue, Hertfordshire is obviously dedicated to violence against women and girls. We have specialist teams in both of these areas. We talk about the rape teams and the domestic abuse teams, which are teams of detectives that are dedicated to protecting the victim and giving them the right level of support to those victims that sadly at that point have been victims of crime around violence against women and girls. Specifically around domestic abuse, there's a number of different measures, different ways that we can help to tackle this. It kind of falls into the prevent side as well. Unfortunately, something's already happened, but we talk about some of the civil orders that we can now use. It's not all about a criminal justice process. All of these investigations around violence against women and girls always have their difficulties in terms of evidential thresholds. We know that it is really, really difficult. So this is where Hertfordshire is invested in what else we can do. So the civil orders is one line that we can go down to protect victims, which we work with legal aid sites around non-molestation orders, restraining orders. We can put things like domestic violence protection orders in place as well. That will give a victim 28 days of breathing space that we can then work with that victim to put other support measures in place and to carry on working with that victim. We have dedicated safeguarding teams that will help those victims through that as well. So it's not always about the court process. On top of that, we've been really successful in Hertfordshire around Clare's Law, which is the domestic violence disclosure scheme, where if we identify a perpetrator that has a history of domestic abuse that victim or that the new partner isn't aware of, that will make a disclosure to that victim sometimes before anything's actually happened to them. That's the best case scenario. If we can get ahead of it and they've not become a victim, we've identified that there's been abusive relationships with the perpetrator previously, that we can actually let that victim know so they can make that decision themselves. Sadly, it may be the case that they have already been a victim of domestic abuse, but we will tell them the history of their partner if it's relevant, so they can actually safeguard themselves and take themselves out of that relationship as well. All of that then folds over into our sexual offences investigation team. All of those powers, all of that pursuit is also there and available for those teams as well to protect the victims moving forward. We now have dedicated victim contact officers to support victims, because at the end of the day, this is the most traumatic thing that these victims have been through. And we've got to be doing exactly the right thing and everything that we can to protect that victim moving forward.
Okay. So collectively then, as an organisation, there's a lot of work going on. We know that. We try really hard to tackle violence against women and girls across a number of teams. You know, it's a force-wide responsibility. But I think we recognise also that it's a public responsibility, that we can't do this on our own. We need everyone to get involved. So, Karl, could you tell us a bit more about how the general public can help us to challenge and to call out some of this inappropriate behaviour? Certainly when we're talking about misogyny, obviously we know violence, it should be, straightforward to call us and get us involved. But when we're talking about those more nuanced behaviours, the subtle behaviours that perhaps people don't recognise initially as that, that derogatory behaviour that is the sort of the tip of the iceberg, maybe. What's the sort of thing that the general public can do to help us?
Certainly in the nighttime economy, where we've got our sort of busier areas, like Watford, St Albans, the areas I spoke about earlier, we will always have patrolling police officers, and there's door staff that are all SIA trained. And I would urge anybody, if they hear any behaviours, any comments, misogynistic, sexualised comments, or any type of behaviour, it's not acceptable, and alert a member of door staff, bar staff, or a patrolling police officer in your nighttime economy, or failing that, report it to us, because we need to know. It might seem something to that person that's quite low level, but in reality, that person could have a long history of this sort of thing, and we need to know who it is, so that we can look at what we can do about it. And as you've just heard, there's many ways we can deal with these people. So firstly, I would urge anybody experiencing this type of behaviour or hearing it, report it straight away to somebody in the nighttime economy, and we will be told about it, and we can deal with it. And we do take it extremely seriously. So I think that's the main thing for me.
I think that's a really good point that Karl makes. We're, to a large degree, we are only as good as what we know. And I think that if something doesn't feel right and doesn't look right, then I think as police, as an organisation, we want to know. And we can perhaps add some more detail and some more information onto it. But if a member of the public sees something or hears something that they're not sure that seems right, then I think we're open to the fact that come and tell us. We'd rather know everything as best we can. Encourage the public to tell us, so that we can try and act on it and develop what that looks like, and that snippet of information that they've heard or seen. It could be the small part of a jigsaw that leads on to something bigger.
And again, in the certainly in the nighttime economy, we all attend our pub watch meetings. So we meet with our dedicated premises supervisors, DPSs, from all the bars in our areas on a monthly basis, and we have information sharing agreements where we will share this information about not allowing these individuals who are committing this sort of behaviour into their premises. We don't want them in our licensed premises. There's no place for them. So that does get shared at the correct level.
Sorry, I'm just going to that actually. Because another really good point from Karl. The best way of disrupting this is to turn their life upside down, the perpetrators. Take that power away from them. Take what they're used to away from them. How can we do that? And Karl's hit the point where there's so many different ways of doing it, and banning them from licensed premises and changing their lives in a way that restricts how they can do this is just one way. And I think that's the really important thing.
In terms of, that more low level conversational environment, there's a group of lads in a pub, you've known each other for years, you're starting to see some behaviour that you don't like, you don't want to offend anyone, but in reality, what should you do and how should you do it?
I think this is a really, really important point, because I think this could be the start of something. It could be the beginning. It could be further along the lines. But I think the really important message is that this is everybody's business. And I think there's a real important message to say that actually have that conversation with those people, challenge them. It might be the root cause to the right approach around that as well. But because it's your business and it's everybody's business to protect everybody, especially around violence from women and girls.
Yes, it's a difficult conversation to have, but especially as the example you mentioned there, if you've been friends a long time, you should be able to do that. You should have that sort of confidence to do it, and it is really, really important. No one wants to see their friends get into trouble, especially if perhaps alcohol's involved as well. It's not an excuse, we know that, but they might be less aware of what they're saying. So that's when we need to be challenging it. You can take them to one side and do that, but it ultimately needs challenging.
So big football tournaments, they're for everyone's enjoyment, women and girls as well. So in terms of anything women can do and girls can do to keep themselves safe, any particular advice that you give?
Yeah, absolutely. There's certain things that all of our licensed premises should be fully aware of, and you should see posters in the premises for things like Ask for Angela. They normally go in the ladies' toilets, just so they're there to see, and people can download anything they need to, the QR codes from them. But yeah, again at Pubwatch, a great opportunity for us to share all this information and make sure they're doing all these things. Hollyguard app is another one.
Okay.
Hollyguard app is something that was started following the tragic murder of Holly Gazzard in 2014. She was murdered by her ex-partner. And it's an app it's one of the UK's most popular safety apps. I think at last count there were 750,000 people using it. And download the app, and it has like an alarm alert system on it. So if you're in trouble, you tap or shake your phone, and your emergency contacts in your phone, you set them on the app, will be alerted. Your video will come on your phone, GPS will come on, they'll know where you are, and they can call the police for you if you can't use your phone. So another one that we recommend, the Hollyguard app.
Anyone can download that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really interesting. Okay, Mike, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think both the things that Karl's just said are really good, and you talk about first dates or people that might be coming up to you in a bar, but I think that both of them are equally important, even if you're there with your partner, husband, because it could be that it's a prolonged period, and actually that could be their only point of being able to reach out and ask for help. And I think that's where the awareness, particularly around Ask for Angela, I think it's there for those people, those victims as well. And like I said, we want everybody to enjoy the football. Football's a great time. World Cup coming up. It's a really, really important time for the country, but it's there for everybody's enjoyment. And I think it goes back to challenging the behaviour and all of these things that we have in place. Let's enjoy it for what it is, and actually let's be role models as opposed to the opposite of that. And let's role model what a great country we are. Hopefully have some success. But if we don't, that's kind of stand up and represent ourselves for what we are, and actually role model to everybody else and be a positive influence.
I think it's going to be a massive challenge, especially for this particular World Cup, because of the time difference as well.
Yes.
A lot of the games are going to be on very late.
Yeah.
And I know there's some work going on around licensing hours, certainly for the knockout stages at the moment. But I think men are going to need to take responsibility here as well. You need to be careful about how much you're drinking, because a late game, the people are going to be encouraged to go out early and start drinking earlier. We've got to be aware of that. We've got to have resources in place to deal with that fallout. But that's going to be a big challenge for us in this particular World Cup. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I'd forgotten about that I think a lot of the games kicking off 10, 11 o'clock at night, that's a lot of time throughout that evening. And I think people just need to be mindful of that and mindful of how much they're consuming and what that behaviour then brings.
Yeah. Because this affects not just that public space, but obviously there's going to be a lot of watching football at home. So all of these sort of help offers apply to those people in the home as well, don't they? That we recognise that there's heightened risk across the board, not just in public.
And that's a really good point. And you're right, we have talked about being out in public, and then kind of that message is to the public of what's going on in the home and what you can hear, neighbours, like out in the streets, people having garden parties, etc. That's where we ask for people to not be afraid to contact the police, not be afraid to reach out to us. Again, it's the message that we talked about earlier, that again, it is everybody's business, but if you think that something's not right, then please contact us. It might be something that's really big that we need to deal with, or it could be a small piece of the jigsaw that fits in. But all of that information is really valid, and just because it's behind closed doors doesn't mean that it's not your business. Yeah.
We've also spoken about a lot of this in relation to the World Cup. I know that's the topic of the conversation today, or the nighttime economy. But generally, where there are people, there may be predators. So we also have to be aware of this could happen at a normal football match, or coming up in Hertfordshire in the summer. There's loads of different events going on. Certainly, again, talking about Watford, my area, in Castlebury Park, we have events on there regularly. And it's about making sure we're looking out for this type of behaviour, not just in the nighttime economy on a Friday, Saturday night, but we're looking for it anytime, anywhere. And just a reminder, that sort of behaviour that certainly we're looking for as police, and perhaps everybody should be looking for, is that sort of stalking behaviour, following people, loitering outside of whether it be a venue or a festival or a football stadium, those sexualised and misogynistic comments, quite aggressive and dominating when they're speaking to females. That's some of the behaviours we're looking for.
I think leading on for that, it's looking like fixated behaviour and obsessive. And it might not be that somebody's in a relationship; it still could be stranger, somebody you don't know that well, or completely don't know at all. But any sort of fixated, obsessive behaviour that is given attention where it isn't required, and I think there's quite clear indicators when people see it. I think it's sometimes it's obvious, it's not always, but that's where we just have that awareness of our surroundings and those people around us and what's going on. And again, it's the same message. If you don't think it's right, tell somebody or challenge it.
Yeah, I think we're coming to the end of our sort of conversation today around violence against women and girls in the World Cup. But before we go, I think it's really important to say that for those that aren't perhaps confident in coming directly to the police to report anything, that there is an alternative, or there are alternatives out there in terms of what partners can offer? Yeah,
absolutely. And whilst we encourage anybody to come forward and speak to the police, we do understand that can be difficult sometimes. But Hertfordshire Constabulary works with a lot of other organisations across the county. If you go onto the Hertfordshire Constabulary website, there's a number of different partners and agencies out there that are there to support you, that will offer a number of different services. So if you're not confident enough to come to the police for now, then please reach out to one of those other organisations, and who will be there to help you in any other way, and will help you through whatever is happening. It may be that they then point you back towards the police, but it's your choice. But they will help you and support you in a variety of different ways. If you go onto the Hertfordshire Constabulary website, and you'll see a long list of the different partners, and that will be able to help you with whatever you need.
Karl, anything else from you?
No, just a reminder about the Things in the Nighttime Economy available to use Hollyguard app, and ask for Angela. And if there's anything else you're worried about, just speak to door staff, speak to a police officer, or phone us 101 or 999.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Right. Enjoy the tournament, everyone.